This video, we're going to talk about QVariant. So what is a variant? Well, it's an unknown type, or I should say a variant is a wrapper around an unknown type. It's part of the meta system. Remember when we talked about mock and the meta object compiler? This is Qt putting data on top of data. It's called metadata. So really what we're doing here is we're wrapping around data so Qt knows what it is. Let's go ahead and demonstrate here. We need to include QVariant. So right off the bat, notice I've got QVariant include right here. We can simply take that and say QVariant, let's call this value, and then give it some kind of value. Notice I didn't say integer or double or anything like that, and I can say QVariant, and let's call this value 2. And let's go ahead and say hello world. Notice what's happening here. We have two radically different types of data, an integer and a string, but we haven't declared them and we're not using templates. We're just saying QVariant. So we're letting Qt take this and wrap something around it. And that wraparound is called a QVariant class. This is, well, an incredibly powerful class. And if you hit F1 and start digging through this documentation, your mind's going to be just spinning with ideas because this is way, way powerful. And when you start getting into things like QML or the Qt's newer way of displaying a graphic user interface, it's heavily used under the hood. It's just they hide a lot of that complexity behind QML. But there's also something else you can do that's incredibly cool with it. So we're going to say void test in QVariant. And let's call this value. There we go. Almost made a major boo-boo. Notice what we are doing. We're making a copy. So this is copy friendly. So this is not a Q object. So let's try doing this. We're going to work with some sort of unknown type of data here. So I'm going to say QInfo value. I just want to know what I'm working with. Now, from down here, let's call that. And let's call with our value. It's going to do a copy. And then let's call this with our value 2. It's going to do a copy. And let's see what we got. So it's smart enough to know that this is an integer and this is a string, although we didn't declare the types. That's exactly what QVariant is doing under the hood. This is way powerful when you think about it in terms of, well, you can do just about anything with it. Now, it does have some limitations. The biggest limitation, which I'm going to touch on right now, is that because you can basically wrap around a data type, it's up to you to figure out what to do with that data type. Okay, let's figure this out. So let's go ahead and say int, and let's call this I equals 0. And let's say bool. Okay, equal false. So what we're going to do here is we're going to see if we can convert this into an integer. Notice what I just said. We're going to see if we can convert it into an integer because both of these are wrapped in a QVariant. So they're no longer an integer or a string. It's a QVariant. So we need to take this QVariant and see if we can convert it. So what we do here is we say I equals, and we want to do a value dot 2. And when you type 2, here's pretty much a list of all the things you can try to convert to. There's a lot of things. So what are we trying to convert to? We're trying to convert to an int. Notice how in the definition, it's going to return pointer, letting us know what happened here, whether it's good or bad. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, oh, all right. Go ahead, grab this. Now, notice I said it's going to return, but actually what we're doing is we're letting it modify that for us. And then we are going to pass that by reference, not by value. That way, you guessed it, we get that information back. So it's returned to us and we can work with it. So if okay. So now we have a bool that tells us whether or not it succeeded in converting that. We can say QInfo And I want to know, this is now an int, and we have that data. Otherwise, what we could do is something like this. Else QInfo not a number. Probably should say not an int. But yes, you may have guessed if the initial data type was like a double or something like that, you are going to have data loss because it's going to cast it in the background for us. Let's go ahead and save run and see this in action. So the first one is going to say int1. The second one, which is obviously a Q string, is going to say not an int. This is way powerful, and it touches on a lot more than we could possibly cover in this course. QVariant is used very heavily when you get into QML, which is much more advanced and goes way out of scope of this course. But yes, you can, and probably there are times you should use QVariant to pass data back and forth.